Welcome to this Bennett Explains finance video. This week, money laundering, a crime that appears all over the newspapers on a regular basis, featuring banks, fund managers, you name it. Within financial services, there's usually somebody being chased down by the regulators for the crime of money laundering. More importantly, I want to just remind you, as if you didn't know, how it could and can affect you. So, what is it? How do you fall foul of the regulations? And why is it important to know about money laundering as a client or customer of an authorised firm? Well, it's a big problem, first of all. It is arguably the biggest financial crime in the world, worth, if you can call it that, around 48 billion sterling or around 2% of UK GDP. Estimates vary. If we were to look at the global picture, you're talking more like 1.6 trillion US dollars by some estimates, and that's around 2.7% of global GDP. So whatever this thing is, it's a huge problem. Regulators take it very, very seriously, and it's as well to be aware, both as someone who works in financial services and someone who uses financial services firms, what can go wrong. So, what is it? In a nutshell, according to the legislation, it is taking the proceeds of crime, and there are various crimes, lots in fact, anything that's a crime could generate potentially laundered funds into legitimate funds, or, as some people like to say, cleaning up dirty money, or taking funds that can be linked to a crime. And the problem with assets that can be linked to a crime, like stolen assets, for example, is they are traceable right there and then. Banknotes have serial numbers on them and so on. So you've got, if you commit a crime, hot property or hot money. Money laundering is all about cooling it down, turning it into funds that can't be traced, or certainly not very easily. So, a bit more detail on that. What are the crimes? Well, anything potentially could generate laundered funds, illegal funds if you like. Drug deals are put up there, acts of terrorism, fraud, robbery, even tax evasion as opposed to tax avoidance. All right, all of those things are crimes, and all of them can involve illegitimate funds. So you can now see why this is regarded as such a big global problem, because these are big global issues. So it's a pretty widespread problem potentially, funds generated by crime. How's it done? Well, regulators in this country talk about 3 stages. Now, money launderers don't sit around arguing about whether they've done placement correctly or not. This is just language that helps to break it down. So there are 3 basic stages. Placement, this is the initial transaction involving dirty money. That's when the money launderer is most likely to get caught, if you like, and it's the first stage. The next one is known as layering. Subsequent transactions designed to muddy the water, to try and break the link between dirty money and clean money, laundered money quite literally. And finally, you get integration. The decision by the money launderer that the money they started with, proceeds of a crime, are now clean and can be spent or in the normal way or integrated back into the economy with no likelihood of arrest. And this is a crime, money laundering, just like the crimes it's linked to, so it can result in arrest. Okay, now these 3 stages by themselves sound like a load of old jargon, so a very simplistic example. Now the problem with money laundering is no 2 recipes are alike, if you like. People keep trying to come up with new, more elaborate schemes to launder funds, as other people are caught out and so on by regulators. So the question isn't, is this a realistic representation of all money laundering schemes? It isn't, but it just gives you a very quick flavour as to what might be involved. So a crime is committed, and let's say the funds find their way into a bank account. All right, maybe the money launderer's got someone working on the inside. And that's the point about money launderers. There are often rings of them, as they're called. They often work in cahoots. Some of them outside the financial services world, some of them inside the financial services world, helping to launder the proceeds of crime. So the money goes into a bank. It's then directed into the financial markets, in and out of lots of different instruments. They could be shares, bonds, Eurobonds, other accounts. The money's moved around, washed around, like it's a washing machine cycle, if you like. So lots and lots of transactions going on to muddy the trail, to make it difficult for someone to go, well, that's definitely linked to the proceeds of crime. And at a certain point, the launderer and the people in cahoots with him will decide, actually, we've done enough cleaning up of this dirty money. It's now really difficult to track the money back to the original crime. So let's take it out and spend it in this very simplified example. What do they spend it on? Well, what criminals spend money on. So yachts, houses, fast cars, who knows, expanding their empire, I suppose all the usual stuff. But there it is. Dirty money goes in, clean money comes out. Now, obvious question is, why am I telling you all of this? I'm assuming none of you out there are active money launderers, obviously. So why am I telling you this? Well, it explains why certain things happen when you deal with financial services firms that are authorised by the FCA. Because how are you going to stop this? How are we going to stop it happening? Well, the crime's been committed, let's say. So the money is paid into a bank account. There is a big opportunity. Now, if the money launderer's got someone working for them at the bank, this gets more difficult, but let's assume they haven't, in which case, straight away, obvious question to ask, and it is asked, and you will have been asked it, and it's not something that firms can get out of doing, they have to do it, is who are you? Identify yourself and prove it, all right? But that's not enough. Where did that money come from? 2 stages. So I now know who you are. Where did that money come from? And those are 2 vital questions that need to be asked pretty early in the process. So perhaps when this chap here tries to open an account for the first time or deal with that bank, that authorised firm for the first time, those would be 2 obvious questions to ask, okay? Once the money is being layered, so that's the placement bit, that's where the money launderer is arguably most likely to get caught out. Once the money's in the financial services system, once it's got past the first safeguard, if you like, what next? Well, as all these transactions start taking place designed to muddy the water, make it difficult to track the original funds and subsequent clean funds, if you like, and link them together, next question, are the transactions that are taking place in the name of this person or using accounts in their name suspicious or legitimate? And there's a bit of an art here to spotting suspicious transactions. I won't go all the way through all the tests, it's not that kind of video, but there are some ways of judging whether potentially a transaction is suspicious and therefore might be linked to someone trying to launder dirty money rather than do something just commercially normal. What are those tests? No commercial logic, 0 profit or loss making. You wouldn't normally do a transaction on that basis, so if you spot one, sometimes that can be a kind of trigger. Secondly, unusual in terms of its size and or frequency of the account, and that's why you sometimes get banks prompting you, did you mean to make a transaction of that size at that time? Part of that is anti-money laundering, annoying that it may be at the time. And the rule of thumb, something too good to be true. So, classic deals that money launderers will get involved in, loans at uncompetitive interest rates, because they're not worried about how much interest they get back, they're more worried about getting clean money back. Because don't forget, crime is highly profitable, unfortunately. So money launderers don't need to get all the dirty money back as the same amount of clean money. They can afford to lose a bit in the process. So they tend to offer terms that are too good to be true. Loan deals, foreign currency transaction deals at odd rates. Or they buy life assurance policies and then gratuitously cash them in early. You think, why do that? You're going to lose half your money. Yeah, but it was the proceeds of crime. They've already made an enormous profit from criminal activity, so they don't mind watering that down a bit in order to get away with it and create clean money. At the end of the day, there are quite a few ways that you can be locked up for assisting a money launderer. That would be someone working on the inside, working within a financial services firm, for example, directly helping them launder money. It's regarded as serious as almost the crime itself. Tipping off a money launderer, so letting them know that the regulators are onto them or that they've done something which might be being picked up or tracked. Failure to report suspicious transactions, that tends to catch people working within financial services firms. They need to have systems in place to make sure that they are identifying and reporting suspicious transactions, which is why you may get some of your transactions tagged from time to time. And then failure to follow the regulations in regards to money laundering. And I won't go through the penalties, but these are all criminal offences and can, in a worst case scenario, result in prison sentences. So there you have it. That's why you're sometimes badgered, both in ID terms when you try to open an account, and subsequently transaction monitoring, and it explains how what is the world's biggest financial crime, splashed all over the newspapers, can and could affect you.